Let's talk more about the mitochondria and fasting. You mentioned to improve their function, we want to fast. How do we get that dose right?
Great question. The biggest problem is that we tell people to start fasting and then they come back to me and say, "Doctor, you made me miserable." No, you got to understand that you got to look at where you're coming from. You've been eating 3 times a day. Okay, fine. The way you got to do it is you got to stop 1 meal a day. So you're going to eat 2 meals a day. And I've been telling everybody that for a long time, that you got to do this gradually because your body's metabolism has to change gradually from a glucocentric to start producing more ketones as well with time and have an alternative source of energy that you're going to make. So you got to do it carefully. And when you do this, you will start changing your metabolism. Now, the goal is that when you have metabolic flexibility, that means using glucose at times, using ketones at times, that's when your mitochondria are going to get better. You get mitochondrial improvement when the energy management in your body is optimal. You see, it all comes down to energy again. It's how the body is handling energy. Nothing to do with calories. It's how your mitochondria are behaving. Your mitochondria are going to behave better when they have adapted to a new system where they can use glucose, they can use fats. So how do we do that? Well, you got to reach a point in your day when you are making some ketones. You're not going to make ketones so long as your insulin level is high. So who's wanting to do the fast? You got to know your insulin level. You got to know whether you're a diabetic. If your insulin level is running very high, you will never be able to get into some degree of ketogenesis because the insulin blocks the fat pads and stops them from breaking down and giving you an energy source. So we know that. So the only way to bring that insulin level down is to do the fasting. So the first thing you do is you cut out 1 meal, and then you have your other 2 meals. Those 2 meals should be within 6 hours of each other. If you cannot wait that long, make it 8 hours. I don't mind. But you got to do that for at least 2-3 weeks. And then you can do more serious fasting. So in female patients, I do 12-12. That means I do 12 hours of fasting, 12 hours of feeding window. Do that for about a month or so, because when I take my female patients, especially right before their cycle comes in, they can't tolerate the 18-6 right off the bat. So 18-6 means 18 hours of fasting, 6 hours of feeding. So I do it a little bit more gradually with my female patients, but with the men, they seem to be able to get into it a little bit faster. So I go into an 18-6 if I can for at least a good month. And then I'll say, okay, now once a week, I want you to cut out that meal as well, the one of the meals. So now you're doing a 24-hour fast. And do that for a couple of weeks. And then twice a week, then 3 times a week, you're eating 1 meal a day. Now you're going to OMAD, which is 1 meal a day, 5 days a week, 2 days. Saturdays and Sundays, I'll let you have two meals. So that's the pattern that I get into. And when I do that gradually, now I notice that when they do their ketone sticks on the urine, or they can do a mojo test, they're making ketones very quickly now. So my point is that you need to get into some degree of ketone production. Now you're telling your mitochondria, hey, you can run on gasoline, you can also run on diesel. You can run on anything. Those are going to be the best mitochondria. So now when you do that, you already know that your mitochondria are working better. And now I tell them to do more prolonged fasting. And when you do prolonged fasting, that means 3-day water fast. Depends on your goal now. If you're terribly overweight, you want to do the 3-day water fast. If you're terribly hyperinsulinemic, you want to do the 3-day water fast. If you have severe inflammation in your body, biomarkers are all off, you got a big fatty liver, you got to do a 3-day water fast. And then the rest of the week, I make them do OMAD, 1 meal a day for 7 days. Check your urine sticks, take electrolytes on the days that you are fasting, make sure you have some MCT oil at home. I give them these little tricks to do, and we get gradually this. Now, mitophagy kicks in. Mitophagy means that your old mitochondria die because you're getting into autophagy. Autophagy means that your cellular contents are all recycling. And when does that happen? Autophagy starts in all of us at about 18 hours, 19 hours, but in small amounts. But if you want major autophagy, most people have to fast for about 30 to 36 hours. So if you want autophagy, where you're doing recycling of your bodily parts, rejuvenating, in other words, and your old mitochondria die and you make new, fresh mitochondria. Why? Why do you want to make fresh mitochondria? Because they produce less reactive oxygen species. So now, when you have mitophagy, you have a full set of new mitochondria in your body. They're going to produce less reactive oxygen species. When you have less reactive oxygen species, you're going to feel better. That's why they say, my joint pains got better. My headaches got better. I feel less sluggish now. I have more energy. What's that all a reflection of? It's not psychological. It's a physiological basis for it. The physiological basis is that you have made better mitochondrial function, less reactive oxygen species. And we can actually measure those too. Actually, we can measure how you're doing and show that you have less inflammation going on in your body. So mitophagy occurs in fasting. It's the best way to produce mitophagy. Now, there are a few supplements that will help you along the way if you want to produce some mitophagy more easily. For example, in some patients, I use urolithin A as a supplement. But you see, the idea is don't take corners. Don't cut corners. Do it the proper way. Do the fasting. Because fasting has other benefits. Mitochondria get better. Reactive oxygen species go down. Sugar levels go down, insulin sensitivity is better. Insulin levels come way down. Insulin comes down, automatically you're going to lose weight. The point is not to lose weight. When the insulin level comes down, automatically you're going to get a side effect of low insulin, and that side effect is weight loss because you don't have insulin to store away. So the weight loss is really a side effect. And all patients who do fasting will lose some weight. And I like that. We do it according to your goals. What are your goals? I want to lose 100 pounds. Well, then let's talk about how we're going to do it. So it reduces all these markers. Fasting also detoxifies you. Fasting changes your gut microbiome. Fasting allows your leaky gut lining to get better. Fasting, you're going to get less toxins coming into your body. Your fatty liver is going to get rid of that fat because when you do fasting, which fat gets out of your body first? It's the visceral fat. It's the toxic fat that goes out. So another place where you get a lot of fat is your tongue. So, did you know that your tongue is mostly fat? That's why it can wiggle in all sorts of directions. So the first 20 pounds that you lose, your sleep apnea gets better. How come? Because your tongue just shrunk, and the patients will come and tell me, hey, my husband's not snoring anymore. 20 to 25 pounds. You want to sleep with that mask for the rest of your life, or do you want to just get rid of your mask? Well, many ways to do that. But fasting is a very effective way to eradicate obstructive sleep apnea, which causes all sorts of problems. So there you go. So fasting has so many advantages. And I specifically made that one video on how to harness the mental energy to do the fasting, to stick to your plans, to not give in to social pressure, friends around you, environmental triggers, walking into your house and your pantry door is there and now it triggers you to go in there and pick up something. How do you overcome these? And I teach people how to do the silence, and that gives you more energy, mental energy, to be able to overcome your bad habits and understand who you really are and who's in control, put you back in charge. But many patients who fast, they also find that they're clearer, they're mentally clear as well because they get brain-derived neurotropic factor. So actually, the more fasting they do, the more it empowers them to do more because they have more willpower. They have better willpower because they're actually reshaping their brain. Fasting changes your brain as well. So fasting is so important for me. It's like the pillar of getting better. Changing your diet, and then you have to do the fasting. That is a no-no. You have to do that every time. You have to do it. And then we talk about the supplements and other things that we look at.
Since you made it to the end of this clip, I know you're going to love the full episode. Click here to watch. I'll see you over there.
Visceral fat is pathological always. It should never happen, but we have an epidemic of it going on right now. Estimates are anywhere between 40 and 50% of the population.